Hi, I'm Ash, the creator of Aganee. I figured I'd come on here and introduce myself to the people. So here we are. Um, I wanted to give you a little bit of background about what I do and what Aganee is about. So let's dive in. Uh, Aganee began in Texas. I am born and raised Houston, Texas. And I was at a point in my life where everything started to crumble down, relationships, jobs, all of the things. And I was at a point where I was like, oh, after everything fell apart, I didn't know who I was. So Aganee began based off of me building my own self awareness and identity. I was sitting in a room at home, and I don't know, I just felt like this sense of peace come over me no matter how much chaos I was going through at that moment. And in that moment, I started like to get like this creative idea, and I said, "Whoa, what if everyone could feel this and relieve their stress and anxiety?" So Aganee began originally as a brand that was meant to build self-awareness to help relieve stress and anxiety. Um, After Texas, I moved to Colorado, and that was very intentional. I had a dream of a license plate that said 333 Colorado. I had no idea what it meant, but here we are today, Colorado. And I just followed it. Something told me that I needed to, and obviously, a range of strange events happened to where I ended up in Colorado. So, how did Aganee begin? Oh my God, that's a story. So Aganee began in Texas. Um, One day I was sitting in this room after I went through like a breakup, a loss of a job, all of the things, moving back home with my parents. And I was sitting in a room one day and I'm like, I'm going through all of this chaos. Like, how am I finding a sense of peace in this moment? Um, and in that moment, I was like, whoa, I started to like get this idea of Aganee, and I was like, what if everyone could kind of like feel that peace in their moments of chaos? Like, what is it about me that's happening for me to even have this feeling of calm that came over me? So that's how Aganee began. I began getting back into journaling, writing my thoughts down, building my self awareness, building myself as a person. And from there, the seed was planted. So eventually, I had this strange dream of a license plate that said 333 Colorado. I had no idea what it meant. I just knew that somehow I needed to go visit Colorado, and so I did. Um, I was working on the road at the time, and I passed through Colorado, and I stayed for a couple days. And that moment was like, whoa, Colorado feels like home. And for me, I didn't know what that meant. I'd never seen outside of Texas, so I'm just kind of like here in Colorado, like, what do I do? Um, but eventually, I went back home to Texas. COVID hit, all of the things happened, the world was crazy, and I was like, I see a bigger world outside of Texas. And I had this dream that I wanted to pursue. I'm at the beginning stages of what Aganee looks and feels like, and I'm like dreaming like wildly, right? So after COVID, everything started to pick up again, and then I am in like this let's get back on the road, let's work mode. And so I did. But then again, something strange happened to where I got my intuition. And I started listening, and it was like, it's time for you to stop doing what you're doing on the road. Um, so I left. I was going back home to Texas, not thinking anything of it. Um, and I'm passing through Colorado, literally passing through Colorado, and I get a phone call. I'm on the phone with my pops, and my pops is talking to me. And we get off the phone. And when I get off the phone, I didn't notice that the GPS had rerouted. Literally, like 2 minutes later, I look up at the sign, and the sign says Colorado Springs. So I'm like, oh. In that moment, I kid you not, I freaked out because I'm like, I don't know what this means, but I have a feeling I'm not going home. So I went back to the hotel that I stayed at when I visited, and I was like, I don't know what this means. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And eventually, what happened was I ended up getting a room at the hotel that night. And as I was checking in, the manager was at the desk and he had me fill out a form. And he was like, "You look like you know what you're doing." And I was like, "Yeah, I used to work hotels a lot, back at home." And he was like, "Well, do you know someone that needs a job?" And I was like, "Oh my God, this is it. This is a sign." So I did. So I was like, "Yeah, I'm looking for a job." And he said, "Okay, can you come in for an interview tomorrow?" So I stayed at the hotel for the night, came in for the interview the next day, got the job, and I've been in Colorado ever since. Um, so that was just the beginning of everything unfolding for me and for Aganee itself as a brand. Um, So Aganee began as a brand that was built on building self-awareness to help relieve stress and anxiety. It was more so driven as an e-commerce versus anything else. It was something to kind of get me started. I had like a lot of people in my ear telling me what I should do with it. And I was just like, going with the flow. But eventually that changed for me. Um, I ended up obtaining my real estate license and I started to get into the real estate industry, learning about it. And eventually I was like, this doesn't feel good. Like I didn't feel passionate about it. And if I'm not really passionate about something, it's not something that I'm interested in doing. So for me, real estate felt very transactional, and I wasn't a transactional person. I was someone that genuinely wanted to build connections and um, make friends, um, find people that related to me. But what happened was, what I learned when I moved to Colorado was I was in a space where all I saw was military, and I didn't know anything about the military. I didn't know, um, from what I could see, it was like military driven, community driven, family driven, which is very cool. But for me, I couldn't relate to it. So I was like, okay, I feel like I was called here, but where do I fit in? And then eventually I began to learn that I was a creative. And I was like, whoa, that's where I need to find my spark, my people, where I belong. And so what shifted for me was I had this idea. And I was like, okay, for some reason, I know that I'm supposed to be in real estate. And for some reason, I know that I'm supposed to have this business and this brand. But I felt like having them separate was chaotic and it drove me nuts because I was like, I know that they work together somehow. So eventually what happened was I took a step back and I started to listen to myself. It was one of those things where I was like, okay, tune out the outside noise. Who are you? What do you stand for? And what do you want? And so that's when Aganee became what it is today. I rebranded in a way that felt like me to where I can still do real estate and do what I'm passionate about, which is journaling and helping people build self awareness. And so eventually, Aganee turned into intentional living. Um, so Aganee is a brand that thrives on intentional living. And what we do is start from the inside out. So I like to work with creatives um, who want to fully live as themselves, express themselves, and build their identity within. and understand who they are so they can build a life that reflects who they truly are. Um, so Aganee is about building strong foundations from the inside out. So I do that through journaling workshops and through real estate services. So I am a dual agent for creatives. Um, so right now, what Aganee means to me is building something intentional, building truth, building creativity, authenticity, because I'm a creative at heart, and I didn't want to separate something that I wanted to learn more about in a career path from what I was passionate about, because then I wouldn't have any drive. So this is how Aganee came about. Um, yeah. Thank you guys for listening. And this was my first video. How did I do? Hope I did okay. But yeah, thank you for listening. Again, I am Ash with Aganee, and I hope to see you in the community.